Your waking world is shaped by dreams. Dreams and nightmares that I create.
Comic book fans are in for a treat. Neil Gaiman's epic The Sandman debuts today on Netflix. Fans have been calling for an adaptation of the series for decades, with Gaiman shutting down previous attempts because of the sheer size of the narrative. He now credits changes in how we view and consume television with helping to bring about this new adaptation. So let's find out more. CBC Entertainment reporter Jackson Weaver joining me now to share his Friday review. So Jackson, first let's give us a bit of a primer for those who may not be familiar with this also. Is this a superhero thing, or are we talking a horror movie series?
Well, it's really hard to pin down. As you said, this comic that it's inspired by is so expansive. There's over 3,000 pages, and that's just in the original run. Behind me here, you can see some of the sequels to the comic book that actually were spanned off of the original run. Now, this is about a lord of the dreaming realm. His name is Dream, or some call him Morpheus, Lord Shaper. Now, he is a character that rules and creates the dreams that all living beings use and go to when they fall asleep. Now, this also includes some of his siblings that also kind of rule how humans relate to the world. There's his sister Death. There is Destruction. There's Desire. There's so many of these other characters. Now, when we talk about what this show really is, it's so hard to describe because it does hit on the horror sort of element. It does definitely hit the fantasy element, and it's very philosophical as well. Not something that you usually see in maybe the superhero genre, which this kind of skirts the line of. Now, I talked to the writer and creator of both the original comic and the show, Neil Gaiman. He was saying how, as you said, the world of media and how we engage with media, TV shows and movies, needed to change before the series could actually make it to the screen. Take a listen to what he said.
Times have changed, and suddenly the idea that you have a 3,000-page story that could be turned into 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours of quality television turns into something that's actually an enormous feature and a wonderful thing.
Now, when he's talking about that wonderful thing, that's, the streaming aspect of TV consumption, making it so we have these long episodes possible, and also that we maybe don't put movies on a pedestal, which are only maybe 2 hours long. He actually got an earlier attempt at this adaptation to a movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt that kind of fell through. So he's really speaking about how wonderful it is that he now has the space to tell this story.
And Jackson, with any well-loved series, there are going to be some grumblings from people, especially huge fans. And there are some rumblings about those changes made for the adaptation, and some fans unhappy. What are you hearing?
Yes, so about a year ago when the cast list was announced, there were some fans who were a little bit upset about how some of these characters changed from how they appeared on the comic book page and how that adaptation has changed with the characters who were cast. Now, that includes one Gwendolyn Christie, who you may know from Game of Thrones. She plays Lucifer, who we of course all know. In the comics, that character is represented as having a more masculine figure, but that gender isn't really the way that humans understand it. She, of course, herself is a woman. That has some fans a little bit upset. She was not concerned at all. Elsewhere, there is another character played by Vivian Atriampong, who you see here on the right. Now, she is the only character that Neil Gaiman says was actually, quote-unquote, gender swapped. She plays Lucienne, which is the woman version of Lucian, who you see on the left there. Now, I actually spoke with her as well about that change and about how fans should relate to it. Take a listen to what she said about how Gaiman creates characters and how it really doesn't matter that change has happened in the adaptation.
It's there, it's embodied in a different way that is on the page, and maybe some people have imagined, but the essence of this being who has deep care for Morpheus, deep care for the world, the realm, the dream in this important place, that has not changed. That is still there and very much present, and what I wanted to portray.
And it's just really the nature of this story. There's a number of other changes, including one of, as I said, Dream's siblings, Desire. That character is canonically non-binary, and the actor chosen to portray that character is also a non-binary actor. Some fans, again, went on Twitter, had some harsh words to say to Neil Gaiman, who had some very harsh words to say back, which we cannot put on TV. But he just really wants fans to take a moment and engage with the show and take it at face value for what it is.
Interesting. All right, so what's your final verdict then? In your opinion, does the Sandman live up to the hype?
As someone who's a big fan of the comics, this is definitely a very, very adept adaptation. And it's one of those stories that was almost a cursed adaptation. We've all heard about how difficult it was to bring, for example, Dune to the screen because of how much lore and backstory was there. Sandman almost had more in the way of it being adapted, and it pulls it off. It is a little bit maybe disjointed, but I would give it a 4 out of 5 for how well this story comes together, how well the characters are portrayed, how well this arc is pushed together, even in this longer runtime than you might have seen in the past. But it's very, very well done. Definitely recommend it. Check it out if you like some stranger fare in your TV watching.
Just in time for a Friday weekend look ahead. Thank you for this, CBC Entertainment reporter Jackson Weaver in Toronto.